links within the site from one page to another, so that basically over time, if Google has found your particular website, it will start understanding about all the different pages within your website. Robots, spiders and crawlers. If you've never heard of these things, don't worry about them, but basically what it means is that Google has automated software it sends out to basically crawl the internet. And what happens is these spiders, robots, crawlers, they're different words for the same thing basically. They're little bits of software that basically go out and find a website, then they examine all the links on that website, and if it finds a link to another website, it goes off and explores that website as well. So basically over time, Google will find most of the internet sites that are out there, the ones that are linked to from other websites. This is why having other websites linking to you is really important, because once Google finds that it's found a website and it's got a link to your website, and especially if the first website was one that was approved of by Google, that Google liked, then basically you're going to get the benefit of that link. So it's just important to realize that there are these things out there. They will find your website. Once these spiders or crawlers have found your website, they'll go off, and periodically they'll come back again. And what Google is looking for is change. Google likes change. Google likes what's called freshness, which basically means new content. So basically, if Google has indexed all your pages on your website and then goes off and then later on comes back, if it finds exactly the same pages with exactly the same content, it'll say, well, fair enough, it's the website's still there, but it's not particularly interesting. It hasn't changed since the last visit. If, on the other hand, you've made a few changes or you've added extra pages, Google will say, oh, this is more interesting. This has got fresh content, which is what it's looking for, because Google these days is on record of basically saying it likes quality websites, ones that are up to date, have relevant, up-to-date information. So the more changes, the more often you make changes, the better as far as Google is concerned, which is why, as someone who owns a website, you should make it your business that every so often, even if it's just once a month or ideally once a week or just on a regular basis, just make sure you have new content so when the robots come back, they've got something else to interest them, and that will be noted by Google, the fact there is new content there. Now, organic versus paid for results. Organic results is really what SEO is all about. Organic search results are the free ones. They're the ones that are listed in the main body of the search results, whereas the paid for results are listed across the top and down the side. So if we bring up an example of Google here, in this case you can see I've done a search and it's got 1, 2, 3 web results at the top here. Now these are what are called paid results. They're advertising. If we let's try doing a different search here. Let's do SEO training Perth. No, let's try SEO. Let's just try SEO training. Right, in this case what you can see is we've got results at the top here and results down the side. And this is what you'd normally expect to see. So basically these results here and those results there, the people who are displayed here are paid an awful lot of money. It's like a bidding process. The way you get displayed here is you basically put a certain amount of money into the pot and say you're willing to pay a certain amount of money per ad that's displayed, and Google goes away and works all this out, and basically it says, right, in this case this particular website here is paid more than this one, which is why they're displayed above that one, and this in turn is paid less. So that kind of defines the pecking order in which these are displayed. Now sometimes these can be quite cheap, sometimes they're quite expensive. Again, it depends on the business you're in, but you might find that in some cases, because it's such a competitive business, you might want to try this. As I say, they can work out expensive, but if they get results and basically if you're making more money than the ads are costing, then obviously it's worth thinking about. What I am particularly interested in is not paying for the Google ads here. What I like are the free adverts. So as I say, this one, and this one, they pay to be there. This one here, that's free. The reason, and that's my website, the reason that my website is listed there, because I did the work to get it displayed, in this case, at the top of the results on page 1 when you search for SEO Training Perth. So with organic SEO, you're concentrating on getting your website at the top, ideally, of the organic search results. And as I say, the great thing about these is, apart from the time involved and the effort involved in getting them there, they're free. As I say, these ones at the top, these can cost an awful lot of money. In some cases, it depends on the business, because some businesses are more competitive than others. But certainly things like, say, insurance, for instance, I've heard of people paying $7, $8, $9, $10 just for the advert to be clicked on. And the trouble with these is I won't actually do it because I'll cost them money. But if I actually clicked on this ad up here, at that point they would have paid the money. It doesn't matter whether they make any money out of me or not. Just simply if I click on that, it will cost this company money. So basically every time a paid advert is clicked on, it costs the owner of that website money. With this one here, it doesn't matter if 1 person or 1,000 people click on it, it doesn't cost me a bean. That's the beauty of organic search results. Now, many YouTube videos that you'll find are out of date. It's important to realize this. A lot of people these days are realizing the need for SEO, and the first port of call is to try and get it done as cheap as possible. And the thing that occurs to most people is to go to YouTube, search that, and look for videos on how to do SEO. You will find some good ones on there, but the vast majority of them may have been good maybe 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, but now they're out of date, and in some cases it can actually harm your search engine positioning results. So do be very, very careful when you start doing research on SEO. You need up-to-date information. You need information that's valid today, because as I say, SEO is a changing subject. Almost on a daily basis, Google makes slight changes in the way it ranks different web results one against the other. So it's important to keep up to date. Now, Google keeps changing. You've got something called Panda and Penguin, which alarmed a lot of people recently. If you've never heard of Panda and Penguin, they were basically just code names for new versions of Google that came out. By new versions, I mean new ways in which it displayed the search engine results. Because, as I say, whenever you type in something on the first page, someone's got to be first, someone's got to be last. And Google uses what's called an algorithm, which is a fancy word for mathematical formula. And basically it has maybe 200 different things that it takes into account when deciding who comes first, who comes last. And I say literally on a daily basis, these are tinkered around with by Google. But these were two major ones, Penguin and Panda. They came out some time ago, and this upset an awful lot of website owners, because a lot of website owners were happily sitting there on page 1. They'd been on page 1 for quite some time. They'd done maybe a little bit of SEO, and some of it maybe might have been slightly dodgy, should we say. And this was Google's way of cleaning out what it regarded as slightly dodgy sites, which might not have been dodgy in the sense that the website owners had gone out of their way to break the rules or anything, but possibly they might in the past have employed an SEO company that wasn't exactly adhering to the rules, and maybe some shortcuts being taken, and basically increasingly if you do try and take shortcuts with SEO, Google finds out and you will suffer. The basic point here is there are no shortcuts with SEO. You need to know the basic ground rules. Then if you really want to go for it and make as sure as possible that you can be on the first page, you need to know all the little tricks and all the little extras. So as I said, there is a certain basic amount of SEO that anyone can do, and then with just a little bit of knowledge you can apply some extra tricks, the sort that most people won't do. So if you've got sort of 90% of websites that your competitors, and they're using the obvious things, if you're one of the 10% who goes beyond the obvious, stands to reason you're probably going to show up better than the others. So there's a lot you can do, yourself, and you do see results. But as I say, the important thing is to realize that Google keeps changing, and every so often it changes in a major way. Over-optimization hurts. These days, a lot of people have realized the need for SEO, and they might have done a little bit of basic research and then gone hell for leather trying to do it themselves without too much proper information about what to do. So, for instance, if you've heard that if you've got a plumbing company in Perth, you need the words plumbing company Perth within your website, then a lot of people might have gone slightly overboard and repeated these sort of phrases over and over again. So if you take a ridiculous example, let's say you're selling widgets. If you have a phrase in your website that says, hey, we're the Perth widget company, we produced the best widgets in Perth, and we've produced widgets for the last 50 years, and we have blue widgets, green widgets, yellow widgets, blah, blah, blah. You get the idea. Basically, if you just sort of endlessly repeat the same thing over and over again, Google is smart enough to realize that you're trying to spam the rules here, and you will be penalized for things like that. So it's very important that you don't over-optimize your website, because there are penalties for this now. Back in the day, you could use every trick in the book and then some, and you probably get away with it. But these days, you have to be a little bit more subtle. So play by the rules that Google sort of announces, but the trouble is Google doesn't tell you exactly where the rules are, and they don't always tell you when the rules change. So you need to be a little bit conservative with your SEO these days, and just take it slow and look for long-term results. Okay, what is a web server? Well, you don't need to know the details about this, but basically a web server is a computer. It's up there somewhere on the internet, and from a company point of view, what you do is you go to a company called a web hosting service, and they will host your internet site for you. What actually happens is your website is physically contained on the hard disk of one of their web servers, and when someone types in your URL, as it's called, your web address, what actually gets seen by your visitors to your website is the details that are actually stored on their hard disks, which are on the web servers. So as I say, you don't need to worry too much about this, but you just need to know really what a web server is. It's basically essentially renting some space on a hard disk on a computer that's permanently connected to the internet. You can actually have your own web hosting computers if you wanted to, but most people wouldn't bother that, because then you have to maintain them, and that is quite technical. Not difficult, but it's quite technical, and it's not really recommended for most companies. Certainly most small businesses, they just use what's called shared hosting, and they just rent some web space, and in most cases it will cost you $100, $200 a year, something like that, and you have a nice reliable service that does the job. The index or home page. Now, every site has a home page, and it's generally called something like index or home. Sometimes it might have a file name extension like HTML or PHP. But the important thing to realize is this is the loading page. So for instance, if you want to see the Microsoft homepage, you type in www.microsoft.com. Just simply type that into your web browser, and that'll become the homepage for Microsoft. Now, from an SEO point of view, you want to pay particular attention to your home page. You want to make this the page that's particularly attractive to Google and the other search engines. So, for instance, things like the title and description, which we'll talk about a little bit later on, you really want to get those exactly right for your home page. Things like your headings and the text that's displayed within the actual page itself. Again, pay particular attention on the home page to these sort of items. It's the single most important page on your entire website in many ways. Once Google has become aware of your home page, then of course it can follow the links on your home page to the other pages, and it can index those as well. But as I say, it's the home page normally is the first page that Google will find on your website, and that has to be as good as possible from Google's point of view. PageRank. This is another concept that you should know about. It's not difficult. It's basically a ranking that Google gives to every single page on the internet, and the ranking goes from 0, which is frankly awful, up to 10, which is a theoretical maximum. These days you never actually see a 10, because it's one of those graphs that it's not a straight line, it's what's called a logarithmic scale. So basically, instead of going in a straight line, it goes sort of like that and then gets steeper and steeper. So even something like Microsoft and IBM and what have you, they're unlikely to have a 10 these days. So I say 10 is a theoretical maximum number you can have, and 0 is the lowest number. It is also possible to have an NA, a not ranked value for this as well, which is obviously not good. Now what I've loaded up here is something called Firefox. You may be familiar with using the Microsoft Internet Explorer, and Firefox is what's called an alternative web browser. We'll see more on this on a later chapter, but The nice thing about Firefox is you can place add-ins into this particular browser. So if I type in a website like www.forseotraining.com.au, right, once this site is loaded up, it will tell you what the page rank is for this particular page. And as you can see, this particular page has a page rank of 4. And you might think, oh, if it goes from 0 to 10, that's not particularly good. But remember, it's a logarithmic scale, so there's a hell of a difference between, say, 3 and 4, or indeed 4 and 5. So this is one of our websites. If I go to another of our websites, let's just try this. So this website, it's cctglobal.com. As you can see, this one's got a page rank of 5. And as I say, the order of magnitude from a 4 to a 5 is enormous. So basically, the higher the page rank, the better. Now, there are some SEO companies who say, oh, page rank doesn't matter anymore. And the reason they'll tell you that is because their page rank is probably not that great. I could embarrass some of these companies by typing in their web